Okay, I was going to do a comparison between the table and the menorah because they sit right across from each other. They're like counterparts. The table is the third furnishing, remember, and the menorah is the fourth furnishing. The menorah sits on the south side, and the table on the north side, they're in the holy place. So they're the first furnishings that you're going to encounter when you walk into the door of the tabernacle or the tent. So they're, like I said, they're right across from each other, and so there's symmetry in the tabernacle. You'll find a lot of symmetry. So the table has the six loaves of unleavened bread, two stacks of six, so there's 12 total. And the menorah has seven lights, three lights on one side of the shaft and three lights on the other side of the shaft. So they have numbers. You can count these two furnishings and the element of fire and the element of the bread. Remember, I also said that this is the tree of life and this is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Again, there are two trees in the garden. And so this also represents the third day of creation. Remember, when we get the trees and the herbs and grass, etc., and the land is separated. We get the actual table of the earth, and it represents first fruits, the third feast. That's the barley sheaf that's waved, and this is also a wave offering. This is um, two leavened loaves. It's Pentecost, Shavuot. It's another first fruit, and that's the wheat. But this is fully baked leavened loaves, and it's two. So it also represents Shavuot, the day of the Torah that was given on Mount Sinai, the two stone tablets. So we have life here, death here. And both of these feasts are harvest feasts. And they are separated by 50 days because you count the Omer, and they don't have a specific date. They're Moedim, but they don't have a specific date as the other feasts do. Pesach is the on the 14th. Unleavened bread is on the 15th. Sukkot is on the 15th. Yom Kippur is on the 10th, and Yom Teruah, or Feast of Trumpets, is on the 1st. But these don't have a specific date number. This is just the day after Sabbath, and this is 50 days later. So, when you do a lot of comparison between the furnishings, you'll find a lot of things. Um, so these two are the ones that I compare, but I can also compare the shapes because this is a rectangle, and we have another rectangle, and that's the ark. But we'll talk about that later. The shapes of the furnishings. Um, so let's see. What else was I going to say about these? Remember, I also said that um, there's four beasts that speak during the seals, the opening of the seals. And so the third beast I said was the man face beast. And the fourth beast, which would be the fourth furnishing, the menorah, was the eagle faced beast. And so remember, this is showbread. It's panim. It's face bread. It's always supposed to be in the presence. And it was only for Aaron and his sons, and it was changed out every Sabbath. So for me, this is the fourth. This is the third beast. The table is the third beast that speaks. It's the black horse. The third seal has to do with the bread. Um, but if you notice, it's in Revelation 6. If you notice, in when that beast speaks, it says, "Come and see," and then there's a voice that comes out from the middle of all the beast, and that's where it says, it talks about the wheat and the barley, the price, they're going to be measured out, but not to touch the wine or the oil. So that's interesting that there's a voice that speaks there. It's like a man. So take a look at that. And then, the fourth beast that spoke was an eagle, the eagle faced beast that said, "Come and see." And that was the pale horse. And that was the death. Remember the death and Hades horse. But the eagle is the one that flies in the heavens. And remember, this is the fourth day of creation where you have the celestial beings or planets, sun, moon, stars, etc., in the universe, in the heavens. So that's why the eagle would best fit here, because it flies in the heavens. Okay, the table also for me represents the 144,000 spoken of in Revelation. There are the 12 tribes, and the menorah represents the 7 assemblies or ecclesias or churches. They have leaven. They're leavened. But the 144,000 are undefiled virgins, and they have the tribes except for Dan. And if you remember, Dan is encamped on the north side. Dan is judgment. Dan is the serpent in the way, or the adder in the way. So you have 12 tribes represented here of Israel, and you have the 7 assemblies represented here. That's in Revelation. An extra thing about the 144,000, remember, these are virgins undefiled by women. So if you think about the Exodus story, watch my video about the Exodus steps, 7 steps in the Exodus story. And remember, the third step was them receiving manna in the wilderness. After they crossed the Red Sea, they entered into the tent, or they were safe from Pharaoh, you might say. They were away from the outer court where the laver and all that. And they entered into the tent. And so if you think about the crowd that was traveling that day, who do you think were the ones running in front? You think it was the older men, the ladies, the little babies? No, it was the young boys. In my mind, that's who would be in the forefront, ahead of the rest, the cream of the crop, the young unmarried boys that made it into the tent first. Yeah, they might have been carrying things and whatever, but for me, they were ahead of the rest. So that's what is at the table. The sheaf, the young boys from the tribes